show. I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously. Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the...
Did you witness Marjorie Taylor Greene's face get redder than a MAGA hat? Jimmy Kimmel's zingers made you chuckle more than MTG's speech. Jimmy Kimmel, our favorite late-night comedian, had to address this political softball. His jokes make you chuckle like a pig in mud. Expect a roast that will make MTG's breakdown seem like a peaceful June day. What a train crash. Marjorie Taylor Greene, our favorite conspiracy queen, originally appeared calm, as if she grasped her topic. MTG responds rapidly. As we all know, and she first held together, consider Greene's normal appearance. However, finding a coherent idea in a Trump address is almost as rare. Before Sarah Ferguson, the interviewer, brought up the little 2020 election, everything was okay. So spicy. Then our girl Marjorie went nuts. It felt like a youngster discovering their favorite ice cream was gone. Ferguson asked Greene if Trump will ever be prosecuted for his January 6th activities. Friends, the fireworks started then. Greene's face was redder than Trump's ties. Virtually steam came from her ears. Hold on, it gets better. Ferguson told her, "You've never accepted the results of the 2020 presidential election. Indeed, you've lionized people for the attack," which hit home.
So you've lionized people imprisoned for their role in attacking the Capitol on January the 6th, including visiting them in prison.
That you don't quite understand. In 2020, America watched riot day in and day out. And President Trump is the very top of that. And people that protested the election on January 6th are also the target of it.
Greene had huge eyes that looked like they would burst. Greene went bananas then. What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election? Oh my, as if they were competing, she interrupted Ferguson. She spoke like a helium-fueled chihuahua. The best part, Ferguson never lost his cool. As usual, she asked questions calmly. This infuriated Greene more. Like seeing a cat try to hold a laser pointer, everyone laughed except the cat. Even alone, Greene's body language was funny. She wiggled more than a youngster who needs to urinate but wants to play. She even reached for the microphone like she was auditioning for the ridiculous America's Got Talent. The worst part was when Greene snapped and doubted Ferguson's journalism. She asked, "Are you even a serious interviewer, Sarah? Are you even a serious interviewer?" Which is impressive from someone who can spell. Greene continued, "Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth," showing again that he is the world's leading authority on Australian TV ratings and the truth. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better. The big fight.
Will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election?
Are we talking about Julian Assange?
Well,
Sarah, are you even a
law.
serious interviewer? I thought we're talking about Julian Assange show. I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously.
Ferguson thanked her, probably with tight teeth, for her time. Then Greene aggressively tore off her microphone like a band-aid. You probably throw a tantrum and leave the kitchen when you're hot.
Joining the program.
Thank you. Good night.
Jimmy Kimmel's account of Greene's interview meltdown was great. He made an immediate impression with biting remarks that could make any politician smile. Kimmel noted that Greene was having a rough day. Poor Marjorie, he quipped. She looked about as stable as a Jenga tower in an earthquake. He noted how our favorite conspiracy queen lost her cool when asked simple questions. Like seeing a youngster describe quantum physics, it's funny but useless. Greene's apparent breakdown wasn't hidden by our late-night hero. He commented, "I haven't seen someone turn that red since Trump tried to read a book without pictures." The audience laughed harder than Greene explained her latest crazy notion. Kimmel then focused on Greene's inability to answer Ferguson's valid questions. He said, "She was dodging those questions like Trump dodges taxes." The audience applauded more than a free hat day MAGA rally. More comedy gold was to be found. Kimmel had to mock Greene's attempt to discredit Ferguson. The audience laughed so hard you'd think they were watching a Trump misspelling montage. He said, "Are you even a serious interviewer? That's rich coming from someone who thinks Jewish space lasers are a thing." Kimmel's roast got funnier when he mentioned Greene's latest rage.
Dolls are an extinct group of humans that lived until about 40,000 years ago. This is what they look like. This is taken at the exact moment they found out they had herpes. Somehow, though, that little boy wasn't even the #1 most childish person in Congress today. That honor went to the Klan mom, Marjorie Taylor Greene. But the Neanderthal on the right, the female, looks familiar to me, right? I mean, yes, that's right.
He remarked, "She grabbed that mic like it was the last conspiracy theory at the QAnon buffet." The audience laughed, recalling Greene's earlier miraculous escapes. Kimmel's anger to Greene's attempt to speak for Australians was sincere. Kimmel remarked, "Marjorie Taylor Greene knows as much about Australian TV ratings as she does about actual science. Absolutely nothing." The audience's thunderous cheering showed his candid political comedy. Kimmel's roast highlighted Greene's apparent dissatisfaction throughout the conversation. The audience laughed more with each great Kimmel joke. He said, "She was fidgeting more than Trump at a spelling bee." After criticizing Greene's terrible interview, Kimmel gave the audience one last gem. The audience laughed, recalling Greene's many solo triumphs. You know, smiled, "I'm starting to think Marjorie Taylor Greene might not be the stable genius she claims to be." After seeing Greene's meltdown, let's get to her biggest blunders from this horrible interview. These absurdities made Jimmy Kimmel's day. They're hilarious. Greene's classic comment, which Kimmel couldn't help but quote, "Are you even a serious interviewer? I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously." He laughed. "Well, Marjorie, are you even a serious politician? Because most of us can't take you seriously either." Still more. Greene fudged January 6th facts. Kimmel's reply, she said many detained rioters had walked into the Capitol building through open doors and videoed and took pictures of the inside of the Capitol. Yeah, and I'm sure they were just there for a friendly guided tour. Maybe they thought it was the world's angriest school field trip. Kimmel then brought out a toy camera.
Simply walked into the Capitol building through open doors and videoed and took pictures of the inside of the Capitol, and then they walked out. And that's, I'm sure, not the images that you show on your network in Australia, but it's a shame.
The crowd laughed as he screamed, "Look, I found one of the cameras those peaceful tourists used," and made exaggerated oohs and ahs like an ecstatic tourist. Greene continued digging. The interviewer tried to discredit the interviewer by saying, "Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth." Kimmel couldn't ignore that. He said, "Ah, yes, because nothing says I understand the truth like supporting a guy who thinks windmills cause cancer." The comic whirled a globe, and he remarked, "I'm trying to find the country where Marjorie Taylor Greene is considered an expert on, well, anything." Kimmel rejoiced as Greene grew frustrated. He joked, "She grabbed that mic like it was the last piece of evidence proving the election wasn't stolen." Kimmel wrestled a stuffed microphone on his desk to prove this. He imitated her elation and said, "Is this how you conduct interviews in Congress, Marjorie?" The worst part was when Greene called the interviewer a liar. Kimmel succumbed. He made a joke about someone who doesn't take things seriously, someone who believes in Jewish space lasers, referencing Greene's most known conspiracy theory. Kimmel made a phony laser gun with a Star of David sticker to illustrate. He said, "Watch out, Australia. Marjorie thinks you're next," while making pew-pew noises at the camera. Greene lost his composure faster than facts at a Trump rally. Kimmel, "She was so red-faced and angry I thought she was auditioning for the role of a tomato in a vegetable rights protest." What does our favorite orange turd have to do with MTG's meltdown, Wasks? Get ready, sweetie, because Kimmel will link these two madmen. For our late-night hero, Greene's outburst was useful. He saw an opportunity to target two of his favorite people. Jimmy thinks receiving two political clowns for one is like Christmas early. Kimmel began by drawing frightening connections between Greene's breakdown and Trump's rants. He made a quip, "It's like watching a mini Trump in action. Same red face, same incoherent rambling, just with slightly better hair." Still, the comic goldmine continued. Kimmel added that Greene's Trump argument was stronger than a young fan of their favorite boy band. "She's like a Trump groupie," he said. "I half expected her to pull out a Trump 2024 poster and start screaming like a Beatles fan in the 60s. Kimmel's comparison of Greene's tantrum to Trump's Twitter tirades had the audience laughing. "It's like she's been taking how to throw a tantrum lessons from the master himself," he said. "Next thing you know, she'll be rage tweeting at 3 a.m. about Covfeff and hamburgers." Trumpy's cranky answer to all this? Naturally, Donnie Diapers had a meltdown. Kimmel showed Trump answering like a proud parent and praising Greene. "It's amazing," Kimmel said. "It's like watching a toddler congratulate another toddler for having the biggest meltdown in the grocery store." The comic couldn't resist mocking Trump's interviewing skills. Trump praising Greene's interview skills is like a fish complimenting someone's ability to climb trees. Neither of them should be giving advice on how to handle tough questions. Kimmel then made more fantastic Greene and Trump jokes. He said they're like the dynamic duo of delusion. Batman and Robin if Batman was orange and Robin believed in Jewish space lasers. Kimmel said, "It's like they're in a competition to see who can say the most ridiculous thing. And let me tell you folks, it's a tough race to call." The audience howled. The real kicker was Kimmel's observation that Trump and Greene seemed to have different realities. These two are so detached from the truth they could be on a spaceship ship to Mars and still claim they're in Florida, he remarked. Maybe that's why they get along so well. Misery loves company, and so does crazy. The thrilling part is when Kimmel really annoys Greene. Our favorite late-night host mocked her and fried her in a vat of her own absurdity. Kimmel opened with a critical comment on Greene's annoyance. She mad, she's a snowflake, he joked, mocking her emotional tendencies. The audience laughed uncontrollably at a politician who seemed tough talking his way, yielding under pressure. Kimmel was only warming up. Each joke he made at Greene was more ridiculous than the last. In response to Greene's fury and Trump's distaste of reading, he said, "I haven't seen someone that red since Trump tried to read a book without pictures." The comic repeatedly referenced Greene's rage. Every time he mentioned her name, he imitated her furious expression, turning redder till the audience laughed. It was virtually a running joke, nor did Kimmel renounce Greene's conspiracy theories. He said, "She grabbed that mic like it was the last piece of evidence proving the election wasn't stolen," mocking her combativeness and 2020 election misstatements. Kimmel's response to Greene's query about the interviewer's credibility was the worst. He asked, "Are you even a serious interviewer? That's rich, coming from someone who thinks Jewish space lasers are a thing," referring to Greene's unusual idea. The audience laughed as Kimmel continued his critique. He illustrated his points with props. He mocked Greene's downplaying of January 6th by using a kid's toy camera as one of the cameras those peaceful tourists used during the Capitol battle. When the piece ended, Kimmel went all out. The crowd fell out of their seats when he compared Greene's tantrum to a toddler who just found out there's no more ice cream, and her voice to a chihuahua on helium. Kimmel saved his harshest criticism for last. The audience laughed and cheered Kimmel's political comedy without boundaries. You know, I'm starting to think Marjorie Taylor Greene might not be the stable genius she claims to be. Kimmel continually emphasized Greene's apparent displeasure, absurd conspiracy theories, and staunch Trump support during the conversation. Each part of the comedy trifecta boosted the other's humor. It appears Kimmel's roast of Greene was just what the doctor ordered. Who knew comedy could heal? Our favorite late-night comedian brought new perspectives to this political circus while making jokes. Kimmel's one-liners were more than funny. They inspired thought, conversation, and most importantly, laughing at the absurdity. He held a mirror to Greene's breakdown, asking, "Hey America, is this really what we're dealing with?" Political satire goes beyond laughs. It helps interpret paradoxes and find comedy in contemporary politics horror. Kimmel's roast reminded us that laughing at insanity is sometimes best. Remember folks, in politics, it's better to be the comedian than the punchline, Kimmel concluded. Greene also falsely claims that gun control advocates staged false flag operations to hide the truth about Sandy Hook, Parkland, and Las Vegas. These claims are not only untrue, but they also do great harm to the survivors and families of the victim. Greene undermines public confidence in the media and open government by disseminating these lies. She has also propagated myths about vaccination, downplayed the seriousness of COVID-19, and drawn parallels between the Holocaust and mask requirements. Her cavalier rhetoric has prolonged the pandemic by raising concerns for public health and causing vaccine reluctance. During his presidency, Donald Trump spread an astounding amount of lies. During his tenure, Trump made over 30,000 incorrect or misleading assertions, which the Washington Post's fact-checker verified. The way that Trump handled the COVID-19 pandemic was one of his most destructive lies. He continually played down the seriousness of the infection, saying it will go away like a miracle, and endorsing experimental therapies like hydroxychloroquine. Due to the misinformation, public health interventions that were required were delayed, which possibly contributed to the high death toll in the United States. Perhaps the most significant are Trump's falsehoods regarding the 2020 election. Even in the face of overwhelming proof that the election was legitimate, Trump insisted it had been stolen from him. The violent uprising in the United States was sparked by this big lie. Capitol, the 6th of January 2021. His rejection of the election results and promotion of erroneous allegations of voting fraud have seriously damaged public confidence in the democratic process. There are actual repercussions to MTG and Trump's lie. They jeopardize public health, foster conflict and violence, and weaken faith in democratic institutions. Endorsing individuals such as Greene and Trump entails endorsing their lies and the harm they bring about. Well-informed voters and open, responsible leaders are essential to a democratic society. The basis of democratic governance is threatened when leaders lie with impunity. Voters need to hold their leaders accountable, honorable, and moral. Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene have both frequently shown that they are prepared to tell lies in order to further their political careers, no matter the repercussion. They have sowed discord, mistrust, and injury by their acts. We must reject leaders who feed off lies if we are to preserve American democracy in the future. It is not only a political decision, but also a moral requirement to vote for accountability and honesty. We can start mending the rifts and rebuilding faith in our institutions by moving away from MTG and Trump, guaranteeing a more moral and equitable society for all.